when you are making commands, what we need to know is for the do form, we are going to conjugate our verb for do. If it's a strong verb, we're going to change the spelling of the stem because that's how we would conjugate it for do. And if it's a strong verb, and we would change the stem by adding an umlaut, we're not going to do that. All right, so here are some examples of conjugating commands for do. Trink die Milch, fahr das Auto, iss den Kuchen. What I'd like us to do is underneath these different verbs, I want us to show the infinitive so we can see how they were changed. So trink came from trinken. And fahr came from fahren, but I want us to put its strong conjugation in parentheses so we can see that this was a case where there was an umlaut added in a regular conjugation, but not in a command conjugation. And is, which means eat, came from essen. And so this was a case where there was a spelling change, and we went ahead and did the spelling change. When we are making a command and we're yelling at one person, we're yelling at this guy, one friend or relative, step one is to conjugate for do. Do not add an umlaut, but keep any umlauts that are already there. Drop the ST. So we're dealing with just a stem, but it might be a changed spelling stem if the verb were a strong verb like essen turned to ist. And lastly, when we do the command, the U is understood, just like the U is understood in English. So we don't use the word U in the command. When we're conjugating for you guys, nothing weird about the plural forms ever. So you go ahead and you conjugate the verb the same way we always would, stem plus T. There's no changed spelling in the plural forms. We don't ever add an umlaut in the plural forms unless it's already there, then we keep it. So you just conjugate for you guys. We do not use the word you guys in the command. What I'd like us to do I want you to write that you is understood. For the do form and the ear form, you is understood. We don't use the word you in the command. We don't use the word you in the command in English either, so it's the same. Okay. But when we're talking to a stranger, we will keep politeness right in it. So Z could refer to one stranger or a group of strangers. And if you'll notice down here that we are using you in the command. So we'll use the infinitive form of the verb. But if it's a separable prefix verb, the prefix will still go to the end of the sentence. So we're just leaving it conjugated for Z. However we would use the verb for Z is how we're using it. And we do use Z in the command. All right, I'd like to point out, if you turn your paper over, you'll see that I gave you a glossary of happiness. You'll notice that the verbs that we're dealing with, if the verb is a strong verb, I've given you the third person conjugation. That's not the form we'll end up using in the command, but it does show you the spelling changes. We'll be using the verbs trinken, fahren, essen, holen, aufräumen, mitnehmen, spülen, and gießen. So aufräumen and mitnehmen are separable prefix verbs, and nehmen is a strong verb. So for the he form, it'd be nimmt, which means for the do form, it'd be nimmst. However, that's going to be modified a smidge, obviously, for the command form. Then I've given you all the nouns that we need today. Baker, bread, cake, car, cat, clothing, dishes, flowers, milk. What I want you to do now is I'd like you to do the first one across where we do get bread at the baker. I want you to try conjugating and doing a command for do, ear, and Z. Just do the first one, and then I want to check with you. By the way, notice that this is a binder piece, Q2B6. Yes. Well, the quarter ends this Friday. But since I already did a binder check. But yes, we're starting second quarter next week. I know, right? I am way excited. Get bread at the baker. Try it. Technically speaking, every time you do a command in German, you're supposed to use an exclamation point, even when you're not screaming at the person. When it comes to the do form of the commands, a lot of times you'll see it, the command form of the verb with an E on the end. There's no grammatical value to that letter E at the end. What that is just a fun, bouncy spelling. Just how oftentimes you'll see gern, G-E-R-N, with an E on the end, gerne. No grammatical value to that E, it's just a bounce. Hole Brot beim Bäcker. It's just a sound thing. Okay, so check these. Hol Brot beim Bäcker. Holt Brot beim Bäcker. Holen Sie Brot beim Bäcker. I would like you to put a box around the word Sie to remind yourself that we use it there. And then I'd like us to do this above the top. Over the do and you guys forms, the do and ear forms, I want you to write you as understood, but I want you to put you in parentheses because when we're doing that in English, we always put it in parentheses. Everybody knows what that means. So I want you to do that here too, so you make that connection. Now I want you to do take the cat with you. Put your pencil down when you have those 3 commands written so I can tell you're done with those 3 commands. Check your work. Nimm die Katze mit. Notice that's the one that has a changed spelling. So it would be nimmst, but we dumped the st, so it's just nimm. Nehmt die Katze mit, and nehmen Sie die Katze mit. Now do water the flowers. And put your pencil down when you're done so I can tell you're done. Gieß die Blumen. Gießt die Blumen. Gießen Sie die Blumen. Okay. Pick up your clothes. I know, right? This one's harder. There are 2 ways of saying clothing. Our book teaches us Klamotten, but the real word that Germans use is Kleidung. but I gave you both. I'm going to use Klamotten on mine. Räum die Klamotten auf. Räumt die Klamotten auf. Räumen Sie die Klamotten auf. Umlaut was there already, so umlaut gets to stay. Do the last one. Das Geschirr spülen is the infinitive, so wash the dishes. Show me a thumbs up if you get this now. Sweet. So, spül das Geschirr, spült das Geschirr, spülen Sie das Geschirr. I need you to now go over to the picture over on the left where it says the walking crown. There's a reason I chose this. Command forms in both English and German are referred to as the imperative form. And if you know what imperialism is, that's kind of like a king situation, a monarchy situation. Imperialism is when you got one guy that's making all the decisions. He's the bossy one. So